But I think I knew at the time that in order to be a successful musician and artist and one that stays around for a long time, I had to be the driver of my own career. I didn't know how to do that at 14. And I don't think I should have known how to do that.
All right, so Mahalia,
Yes.
talk to me about where you're from, what life was like growing up. Give me the background.
So I'm from a tiny little city in the UK, and it's called Leicester. It's really small. I mean, I say that I'm from Leicester. I'm actually from a small town within Leicester, which is called Feister, which is a strange town, but cute. And I basically grew up there from like the age of 4 or 5 until I was 14. Then I moved to Birmingham when I was 14 and kind of got a whole different experience from school and just from kind of living and being in the wild. And then when I was 18, I moved to London. So I've kind of moved around a lot, but when I was a kid, I don't know, I was a bit weird actually. I think I was kind of different because nobody in my town totally really understood me or any of my family. But I had a great time. I was super academic. I did really well in school. So I kind of I followed the rules. I was always really good at my work. And then I kind of got into music when I was 11.
Why don't you think they understood you?
I think for loads of different reasons. I think, so where I'm from, the town that I live in is a predominantly white town. There's also a really large Asian community, but it was really segregated. So I used to live on the road, kind of right down the middle of it, and it was literally like one side was white and one side was actually kind of mostly an Indian community, but it was split straight down the middle. So when I went to school with mostly white kids and then also some Indian kids, and I just didn't really fit, to be honest. And I think, I walked in there with my brown skin and my afro and even just like my mole, and people just didn't really get it. And it's really weird because when I go back home, everybody's still friends. Everybody stayed on at school, they stayed friends, they stayed close. And I think what it is about my town is that because I left, people really felt a way about that. My town is very you come and you stay, and when I left, I think a lot of my friends in school, my best friend in school definitely felt very betrayed by the fact that I'd left to go to a new city. So I actually I just struggled with it. I really struggled with placing myself, and I struggled with kind of working out what was real and what was not. And it's a really weird thing to kind of comprehend. And it's actually never anything that I've talked about. So this is, I think, the first time I've ever said that out loud. But it's when I was in school, I had my friends, I had my thing, I was doing my thing. And then when I left school, I didn't. So I think I just questioned whether any of those relationships were real.
And now, because when I think about you, I feel like confidence and honesty is so deeply ingrained in the fabric of who you are. But then I also just think you come into this world as women of color, and there are constantly things that you face every day that try and negate that, right? And so you think back to times that were pretty formative in your life. And so that's how I'm like, what was it like growing up? Who were the people in your life, or how were you seen? Was there ever a point where you started to see yourself the way you think other people saw you, or you start to doubt yourself because of how you thought people saw you?
I definitely doubted myself. I think it was weird. It was strange for me in school because I was kind of outgoing and I was confident. I've always been confident. I've never really been able to hide that. And I think it was my mum, because I've got the most amazing mum, and she was always just people are always going to try and dim your light, and you can't let them. So I think that never bothered me. They could have kicked me and done anything to me, but I was always open and honest and confident. And I just don't think they liked it very much. So I think when I really started to see myself, I was like an adult. I was like 18, 19, but I'd left school. So in school, I didn't see myself at all. I was always seeing myself through other people's eyes. And I think that created doubt. Because I think, like in school, like, I was always the intimidating one. I was always the aggressive one. I was always the loudest one. And I just always used like words like aggressive, intimidating, loud, obnoxious, arrogant, any of those words now, if like anybody calls me them, I get really triggered. Like really triggered.
And do you feel like you revert back?
100%. That is 100% because of school. Like sometimes I'll be on the phone to my mum and she'll call me selfish, me and mum will be having like a stupid argument and she'll just be like, "You're so arrogant," and that will really hurt me. And I think it's because of school, and it's because I feel like so many of those words have been branded on black women for so many years that it just reminds me of being in school, and it reminds me actually how much damage was being done without me even realising.
Right.
Because so when I left Leicester, because I'd grown up with one experience, and then when I left Leicester to go to Birmingham, I then had a whole new experience, because Birmingham's so multicultural and so diverse, and it's super integrated. So anywhere I lived, I was seeing everybody from everywhere. So for me, Birmingham was a whole different experience. But now my school was still predominantly white, but then there was also a large black community in school. So I basically was now at school with white kids and black kids. So at this point I'm thinking, oh my God, absolutely, get me in, I'm ready to go. And then I had the same racism from the other side. And that was when I really was like, oh my God, I don't, like, hands up in the air, I don't know what to do now. And I think that was where I really needed my parents. Because I'm of dual heritage, my mum's black, my dad's white. I needed them both to explain to me what that was.
Well, it's like you're not white enough for the white kids, you're not black enough for the black kids. That was how I grew up.
Yeah.
And it makes you question who you are, what your purpose is, how you function in different spaces. And then I think you get to a point where you start to realize you react or you move differently in spaces because of how you have in the past. Yeah. But I want to know, how does music factor into all of this for you? So like, was that like a saving grace? Was that your outlet? Was it your refuge?
Definitely.
Okay. So when did that start?
And it's funny because I never used to relate the two until like this year. Because the more that I talk about my experience as a kid leading up to when I started playing, the more I understand how they interlink. So when I was 11, it would have been my first year of middle school. I started learning the guitar. And then when I realised that I could kind of sing, I started writing songs and then singing them with the guitar. And that was the moment for me in school in particular, because I had the most amazing music teacher who was so supportive and so just driven to kind of make sure that I was in my music lessons, always in my guitar lessons. He would teach me, he taught me piano after school for like 2 years. I think that, when I was 11, it was the only thing that I had that was solely mine and nobody else could touch. So I think it really did link into my school life because, while everybody was out at lunch, I'd be in my guitar lessons. So I think I was subconsciously trying to get away, but I was doing it in a way that was like, controlled because I was in school. So I couldn't physically get up and leave the town.
Right.
I just got away from my school life by doing extracurricular activities.
And what were you writing? Was it about situational things that were happening in those moments, or was it thinking about the future? Or
some of it was situational. So some of it was just about boys that I really liked in school. There was one song that I wrote when I was like 14, so I was a little bit older, but it was called Silly Girl, which was about girls in my school who I just felt like were bullies, basically.
Well, silly girl, why be such a mean girl? Don't be jealous, be green girl.
And then, it was all pretty situational, but then I think I started looking outward when I got slightly older. I remember having a conversation with my mum when I was 13. I just like properly put out like a small EP, and my mum said, why don't you try and write songs that are looking outward? So I tried that for a bit, which was interesting, but I just find it too hard.
Why? What's hard about it?
I think I'm really good at drawing from experience, but I find it quite difficult to draw from something that I don't know about yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I try and, but also because I find it slightly ingenuous. So for me, because honesty is my thing,
right.
I like to talk about things that I know about.
Right.
Yeah.
So, 11, your love for music starts to bloom.
Yeah.
What was that moment, that switch where you felt like, oh, I can do this, for real, for real?
I think when I signed, when I was 13.
That's when it hit? It wasn't even before then that you were like,
because the signing was a shock to me. Well, I think I knew at the time that in order to be a successful musician and artist and one that stays around for a long time, I had to be the driver of my own career. I didn't know how to do that at 14. And I don't think I should have known how to do that, you know?
What made you want to keep going?
I don't know. I think I have this thing, and it's probably a spiritual thing, but when I was a kid, I had a naming ceremony, which basically, so there's all different kinds of naming ceremonies, because I had a traditional Ghanaian naming ceremony, but my brother had a pagan one, so there's different types. And my one, when I had it, it's basically, for anyone who doesn't know, it's basically a day or like a few hours, and it's a ceremony to celebrate or to bless your name. So the ceremony is strange because you kind of, I must have been like 3 or 4, and you come out of the house, you walk into your garden, and there's like hundreds of family and friends there. You go up, I had like honey and I think it was rum and water spread on my forehead, and then I'm passed around every single person, but your feet can't touch the ground. So you're passed, and I don't know, but I find it really symbolic.
Is it just like these people that, it's like the village of people that will constantly be supporting and lifting you up?
But I find that symbolic as like, because of what I do, my family will always call me and say, are your feet on the ground? You know? And like, I find the way that my life is aligned, I find crazy. And I don't think about it that often. I only think about it sometimes if I've had a glass of wine or if I'm like in a weird mood. But it's like, you know, from that moment, I remember that feeling, and I must have been 3. And I remember the feeling of not having my feet touch the ground, going down, up and down. And every person has to kiss you on the forehead and say, Mahalia, Mahalia, we give you this day. And it's a way of blessing you and blessing your name. And I remember from that moment onwards, in all my exams and everything I did, I felt like I always landed on my feet. You know?
No matter what.
No matter what.
What does your name mean? Do you know?
It means tenderness. It means the tender one. It's of Hebrew origin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think you're tender?
I do, deep down. I think, you know, I think right now I'm tender. I think people who know me that like I'm definitely kind of bullshit and kind of outgoing, and I kind of have that, like, I'm very Leicester, which is where I'm from.
Okay.
So, and that makes no sense until you go there or you meet all the people that I know from Leicester, but it's like, I'm very much a product of where I'm from, but I'm tender. I'm super sensitive.
And would you say that you are like in the driver's seat of your career now?
Absolutely. I could check my emails more, but other than that, yeah.
And what does that feel like when you think of not being in that position before? What does that feel like now?
Just being in control. And even when I feel slightly out of control, overall I feel in control. So we all have moments of feeling slightly out of control, but ultimately I feel like I know what I'm doing. And when I don't, I just take a break. And when I say a break, I mean like a day at home. But it's control. And I remember how I felt before. I remember how I felt when I first moved to London and how out of control I felt. But I feel like everything's in my hands. And in the same breath, if I felt like I needed to stop, I would stop. But I don't want to yet.
So let's talk about the album.
Yes.
Love and compromise. What does love mean to you, and what does compromise mean to you?
I had something recently where somebody said, love is time. I think that's what it means to me. I think love, to me, is about time with people and is about sharing your energy with people and sharing your space with them. I think love to me is so simple. And actually it's one of the hardest things that I can try and explain. So I can't really explain it. For me, it's such a natural feeling to love and be loved, I think.
So then I want to ask, because the album starts out with that famous Eartha Kitt quote, right?
Yeah.
Which I think so many people have responded differently to it.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of girls that are like, yes, compromise for what? And she has that long laugh where she's like, not compromising.
Yeah.
But when you think about it in the positive sense, what made you, one, want to use that piece, and two, name the album?
So I wanted to use that piece because I think it perfectly reflects my own mind and the way that I think about things. So when you hear her in the beginning, she says, compromise for what? Why would I ever compromise for a man? And then then right at the end of the song, you hear her say, if you want to think about it in terms of analysing, I would fall in love with myself and I want someone to share it with me. And I think that's exactly what compromise is. It's not about changing yourself. It's about somebody saying, I'm going to share you with you, you know? And I think that's what it is. It's knowing that the person in front of me can't give me all of them. I have to share them with them. And so listening to her, I just really related to it. And I really felt like so much of my music kind of says what she's saying. It's like, you know, I have so much music, but like even when it sounds like I'm hating on somebody, really, I'm just saying it's fine. You know, like I don't want to be with you, you don't want to be with me, and that's fine. And that's been kind of my whole thing ever since I started making music. Was just, I'm a very I don't get over things easily, but I'm a very kind of clear and direct person, particularly in my relationships. But calling the album it was just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no other name in the running?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It was pretty quick.
Yeah.
And when it was actually my friend, so because I was using the clip, I had love and no compromise, uncompromising, like terrible names that we all knew couldn't be it. And my friend Aston looked at me and was like, why aren't you just calling it love and compromise? And we were all just like, and then and then I think everyone was just like, yeah, absolutely. And I love it.
And there's some features on it, but some familiar voices and some unfamiliar ones.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like having a friend on the album and then having a friend also but someone more familiar like Ella.
Yeah.
What does that feel like? And what do you think is achieved by having different voices?
I think when I had gotten all of the features on, I was so happy. And I was happy because I felt like I was doing something different. I wasn't jumping on the wave of having 10 features that were all big names, or also doing the other thing, which is just kind of having features that don't add anything. And so for me, you know, Hamza, who features on Regular People, is absolutely amazing. And for me, that's a no-brainer. Why would I not have her on there?
Yeah.
And I think, I kind of struggled with that one at first because I knew, I kind of, in my head, I knew that like my team and the people that I worked with would probably want me to have a more known name, which is fine. And that's in their best interest. But Hamza was too important to me. And also she's sister. So I just, yeah. But then also to kind of oppose that and have Ella was gorgeous because Ella is obviously a more familiar voice and is probably more well known, but Ella is equally someone really special to me.
Right.
So it just really, particularly with those two, it felt like this moment of like sisterhood, and it felt like this moment of me looking up at Ella and not looking down at Hamza, but it was like this kind of trio of like the different levels.
You're pulling the people in your world together.
Exactly. And it's like, I guess Ella kind of skyrocketed last year. Hamza is totally emerging in London and coming up and emerging everywhere. And then I guess I'm like just past that slight emerging phase, but still emerging. So it's like, it was just lovely to kind of let the three different worlds collide.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite song?
On the album?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Good Company.
Okay, why is that a favorite?
It was an important message for me to tell. It was an important story for me to tell.
Yeah.
Good Company is my favourite because it was something that I wanted to talk about for a long time and couldn't find the right words. And it's basically, I wrote it because I have this thing where, and I think it's a universal thing, but when I was a kid, not a kid, that's a lie. When in my late teens, not a kid at all, but in my late teens, I used to have this thing where, if I went on a date and I invited this person back to my house, I always felt like there was an expectation to always take it further. And that really bothers me because I'm just like, why? And so when I was writing Good Company, I was writing it to a guy as a message to kind of say, if I invite you in and invite you into my space and invite you near to me, then everything from this point on should be on my terms. And I really had to get that message out because I've had those experiences. I've had, mostly fine and mostly positive, but I've definitely had a negative experience where I really felt like I had to say to this person, no, this is my space, this is my mind, and this is my body, and I will do what I want with it. And so I wanted to write it into a song in a more playful way. And Good Company for me was an important song for me to give to young women and to young people, to basically just give them something else to sing.
Right.
I'm hearing so many, and honestly, I love all the tunes. I love winding up my waist and drinking my wine and singing all those songs, but I want to give girls something different to say than, come and get it, babe.
Right.
I want to allow them to honestly, being on this tour and seeing so many girls screaming at me saying, if that's the kind of girl that you came for, baby, don't you get too comfy. I like the kind of guy that will wait for it because I need to be in good company.
Right.
I'm oh God, swore. I'm loving it. It's like I'm loving seeing all of those young women singing that to me.
So, album's been out. You're on tour now. Even before the album came out, various awards and lists, and what does that feel like? Especially still being, it's not like you just started making music, right? So in a sense, you're still in the early days, but at the same time, there is so much to come. So you're in the thick of it when you think of everything that's happening. What does it feel like when you see your name on these lists and you nominated for different things?
It's a pretty scary feeling. Actually, scary is the wrong word. It's a crazy feeling. And you know what? At the end of all of it, it's a real feeling of recognition. That's the feeling that is the most emotional feeling, because you spend so long trying to feel not noticed, but trying to feel like you're moving in a certain direction.
What's next?
Well, I'm going to finish this tour in like 2 months, and then I'm going to go travelling for a couple of weeks and just kind of clear my head again. And then I'm not sure. Probably be music, to be honest. I find it really difficult. I don't write when I'm on tour, and I've basically been on tour for the whole year.
Right.
So aside from writing the album, I'm kind of getting that itch again where I just feel like I need to make some music. So hopefully that.
If you could think back to when you first started realizing you love music, hit that point where you're like, okay, I could do this for real. What would you tell yourself knowing what you know now at that moment?
I would tell myself, I would just say believe in yourself. I would say be strong and be confident and believe in yourself. And it's funny because strong and confident was basically the 2 words when I was younger that I thought was so negative. And so I would definitely say stay strong and stay confident. And I think just believe in your light, because no one's going to dim it.
So your mom was right.
Yeah.
Moms are right.
Yeah.